This is Somaliland, a country not officially recognised by any other nation in Africa or the international community. Yet Somaliland has a version of democracy, in a region synonymous with anarchy, terrorism and piracy. In November 2012, in the midst of an election, a small crew went to Somaliland to see how this regional exception succeeds. Through the stories of those trying to make democracy work.
Could not take the chance jeopardizing people's life.
Democracy-gu qoladaasi way iska sheegtaan laakiin democracy-gu Somaliland buu yahay.
The underdevelopment, poverty and volatility of the region means Somaliland's peace remains fragile, and during the tense days around the election, the fight for the country's survival is never far away.
People were calling me today, threatening me. After this election, I'll send police to them. I'll arrest them.
With the challenges it faces and its proximity to chaos, Somaliland has become an experiment to see if democracy can function in the developing world. Somaliland is located on the Horn of Africa, a region not noted for its free and fair elections. But Somaliland has become rather accustomed to them, having held 6 peaceful votes to date, a record that puts the country amongst the most established democracies in Africa. Despite that, there is still every chance the next one could be Somaliland's last. This election will produce 2 outcomes. Firstly, it decides on councillors, and in that way is a local election. But it's also a national election, as it determines which 3 parties out of the 7 in contention can run candidates for the presidency. Only 3 parties that win the largest numbers of votes in the local election, in the most regions across the country, can become the national parties.
oo tartamaan dadku u tartamaan ambishikooda siyaasadeed si aan saaxadu noqon saaxa cabursan oo ay u waayaan awood ay ku helaan ama ku cabiraan awood rabitaankooda siyaasadeed.
This election is organised by an independent body called the National Electoral Commission. It's responsible for keeping this process fair and peaceful, and the man in charge is Ali Khader. 2 years ago, Ali was a successful investment banker in Toronto. But he's now part of a wave of people coming back to contribute to the democracy in Somaliland.
I made a sacrifice for this country, wallahi.
Ali's role makes him the central figure orchestrating this election nationwide. We're going to follow him during the course of the process to see the challenges and difficulties the country faces. Ali and his team are currently shipping out the remaining ballot boxes to the polling stations in time for the election. But a large part of that preparation in a new democracy is educational. This system of governance is new in the region and has to be nurtured as it develops.
Show the illustration.
Illustration, how the people vote. We have to teach the people. We have to show how.
This is the right one.
Yeah, you can you read Somali, Mohammed?
Sahwi. Khalat.
Exactly, yeah.
So far, so good. We are on the timetable.
Okay.
So once we start, we know it starts smoothly, inshallah. God willing.
Somaliland is in one of the most daunting regions in the world to host an election. Neighbouring Somalia is home to Al-Shabaab, Islamic extremists who were against democracy, and in 2009 bombed the presidential palace in Somaliland's capital. In 1960, Somaliland was granted its independence from Britain. In the same year, it joined with Italian Somalia to form the Somali Republic. Democratic government ended in 1969 after a military coup by Siad Barre. After decades of tensions, the country descended into civil war. By 1991, the rebel army, known as the Somaliland National Movement, declared the territory, which was British Somaliland, independent. One of those who led the rebels during the civil war was Musa Bihi. It was his rebel army that gave power to a civilian government when the conflict was over. Now, as a civilian, Musa is the chairman of the ruling party, Kulmiya. In 2010, Mohamed Silanyo, leader of Kulmiya, became the third president of Somaliland, after 19 years in opposition.
waxaa kala dirayaa dhammaan shaqaalihii goobaha tegay body agents should go all the border stations, all the regions for the next 24 hours.
dhibaatooyin badan waxaa laba dhibaato ugu weyn mid waa ka daraya cabsida siba meelaha xuduudada amaadka in qoryaba laga soo gala laga yaabo laakiin inamada hadiiba ay meesha khalkhal geliyo oo nin doonayo fadhiyo guriyo ninka tagay meel fogow adiga iyo sanduuq waa isku xidhantii haddii lagu waayo meesha iyo haddii la xabadinayo iyo haddii la buraynayo adiga sanduuqaasi oo gacantaada ka baxma halku yaanu la joogo laakiin waxaa la rabaa inay meesha waxa ka dhaca waxaan ku dadaalay sanduuqa inaad mar qura indhaha waxa gelaya waxa ka soo baxay waayo dalka dhamme khalkhalka iyo nabadgelyada mid uu ku gelaya warqadaada waa ka murashaxa ku dhacaya ama uu soo baxaya waa ka dawladii kulmiye laga adkaanaya ama ay ku adkaanayso waa sanduuqa ay raadku adeeraysa kulay marka taana ka calaamatan aad iyo aad u mahadsantihiin hawl wanaagsan soo noqod wanaagsan iyo guud baa
Away from the Kulmiya offices, Hacksaw, one of the newly established parties, is holding a rally.
هلا بدون ما نقص قبلنا وقامين والمجاهدة ودلك وسوا هالجبي بدلك وح الله يروح الدم بيو كله يمشي تحت مجاهد حسن عيسى تحت الدم بيو كله يمشي ما عايزين حق السوري حق
During the presidential election in 2010, international donors paid for the voter registration process so that people were individually linked to a polling station and checked off when they cast their vote. This time round, that funding has been cut, meaning the only defence the National Electoral Commission has against people voting multiple times is indelible ink. As a precaution to prevent electoral fraud and terrorism, the Electoral Commission has introduced a traffic ban on election day, though special car plate exemptions are available. With terrorists using car bombs and political parties trucking voters from station to station in the absence of voter registration, it's hoped that limiting movement will make the election safer and fairer. But since only Ali can allow an exemption, there is now a last-minute rush from those looking to secure a car plate in time for the election day.
xusbiyada baa lagu dhibin baleedyadooda waxa ku soo diray Maxamed Abdi oo ku soo diray warqadda oo soo saacad dabadooda soo sii waa kale baciida baati dadka soo diray what the fuck is this you are not controlling anybody we are good to hold هذا ما حد يقول لي تاني يعني شغاله نفسه جبت ورقه او شغاله أول سنة وحسبيد ورياء وشر دبوين كا يلا بافر ويلي يسووناي تدوب ذا كليوي حسبيد كان المشي
With the security services failing to restrict access to the office, things are becoming increasingly chaotic. As the situation worsens, Ali decides to retreat to another room. The election is also the cause of last-minute preparations at the Domestic Observer's HQ. The Domestic Observers are responsible for refereeing proceedings on polling day.
This election is very sensitive, and I think it's because of the 10 years political cycle will start the day of the election, and the voters will determine the 10 years political parties of Somaliland. So this election, I think, is different from all elections. High competitive of political parties, at least 2,000 and above candidates of local government. So there's a lot of interest in districts, in the regions.
As a final point to the country to play an active role in ensuring the election is free and fair, the Domestic Observers have organised a press conference.
doorashada aynu ka rajeynayna inay tahay inay nabadgelyo ugu dhacdo chapter cusubna runtii inoo furmi doono markii doorashadaasi la dhaafto haddii la yidhaahdo waxaan xoojinayaa dhiirigelinta asxaabta iga horeysa ay dhiirigelinayso runtii qarankani cadow badan buu leeyahay indho badan baa ina eegaya adduunka ina eegaya dimuqraadiyad baynu qaadanay aynu dhibaatooyin badan kala kulannay aynu u caddayno ummadda iyo adduunkaba inaynu ka bixi karano tan iyo midka adagba sidii aynu doorashadii madaxtooyada usoo wada baxnay ee nabadgelyada aynu ugu dhacday ummaddana waxaan jeclaan lahaa booliskeennu meel walba ma gaari karaa ama ciidankeenu inay nabadgelyada iyo gacantooda ku qabtaan sidii doorashooyinka horeba ay ku qabteen waana mahadsantiin intaasaan kaga baxay.
I think that's an interesting thing.
This one piece will make 52 layers.
Watch on mobile devices or the big screen, all for free. No subscription required.
Somaliland remains an unrecognised country after over 20 years of de facto independence. Whatever the reasons may be, Somaliland has been left to its own devices and has had to develop by itself.
meel cidla dalbiga laga dhiso waxaa loo yeelay dadka ummadda u taliya baamushtar traditional ama madax dhaqameed aqoon-yahan siyaasi taliyaasha ciidamada SNM waxaana loo socon marba in loo sii guuro xagga dimuqraadiyadda casriga oo la yareeyo ta qabaa'ilka iyo reeraha ku dhisan.
One of the other political associations looking to secure its status as a constitutional party is UID. The oldest party in Somaliland, it's hoping to gather momentum in this election, ready for the next presidential vote.
waxaan nahay xusbi hadda jaaniskiisa taagan yahay markaa waxaan jeclahay biidnaahi kariim inaanu insha allahu tacaala tan ku soo bixi doono xusbiga u ballaadhayn ku soo bixi doono insha allahu tacaala rajadii waxa weeye lacagtan soo saarnay anoo marka u horeysa full ma sameyno welfare buuxa ingiriis oo kale waad og tahay naga bilaabeen bishii August aan ka qayb galnay shirkii Cape Town Congress-ka 25 Socialist Internationalist fadhiga way ka qayb galnay ilaa 120 xusbi ka soo qayb galay arkaan inaanu magaciisa Soomaaliya ka qayb galay dadkii aad iyo aad bay taasi niyadood kor u qaaday waxay arkeen waxaan xusbi qadiyadda Somaliland international stage international forums ka gaarsiinaya ay arkeen kii mataqaanaa dhawaad loom way inuu heshiis fair election free way لكن fair election it's a long way to go taas way naga maqan tahay waxa uu noo keenay wax badan oo dalka aan awoodi lahayn registration kama jiro.
How far Somaliland has to go before having a truly fit-for-purpose voter registration process can be seen at the Electoral Commission's office, with Ali becoming swamped by requests for the traffic ban exempting car plates in the hours before polling day. Ali's office has now descended into chaos, as the security staff assigned have left their posts. Without security assistance, Ali tries his best to calm things down. Eventually, the security forces return and have to use force to dispel a situation which was created by their absence.
Yeah, it's still chaotic, but much better than before.
What was going on here? What was the cause of this?
This thing?
Yeah.
Everybody wants that plate so they can move around tomorrow. So ministers, business people, what have you, everyone came there to take advantage of that. And if we give those plates, we're afraid that they will use it for campaigning.
Because at the moment, they're not allowed to campaign tomorrow night.
Yeah, they're not allowed to.
They're not allowed to use the car.
But they're not allowed campaigning publicly. But they might move it from one place, or they'll move people, or get access to workers there.
They pay for money.
Try to bribe.
To buy the food.
So there are a lot of things. And the other thing is, once you are fair to everyone and you give them, you allocate equal share, you cannot give someone an extra, treatment, or what do you call it? Preference.
weliba haddaan lana ictiraaf lahaa oo maqaalo fiican heli lahayn maqaalo heliyaan Uganda oo kale hesho Tanzania hesho haddaan heli lahayn waxaan soo bixi lahayn one of the best democratic nation in Horn of Africa ayaan soo bixi lahayn.
Although recognition would help Somaliland, it's important to understand that across Africa and the developing world, elections often bring even long-established countries to their knees, as has been the case recently in Kenya and Zimbabwe.
حاجة واحدة حاجة جيبوتي it's not a democratic nation. Ethiopia tradition never been democratic. حاجة واحدة يمن عرب waxaan ku jirnaa dhul dhano democracy laba cod ah kelmadda democracy ma keenaan degala shock marka xaga qulida waxa naga socotaa undermining ma naga socotaa ya xasidnimo ya naga socotaa.
In the capital, Hargeisa, ballot trucks need to be delivered to the polling stations in time for the morning. Progress has ground to a halt as the Electoral Commission officials, police and army argue about who's responsible for the dispatch of the trucks. It has become clear that the police and army have been assigned to the wrong trucks. Now, Ali has an angry police commandant and a shortage of guards.
ساعات صدوا على تعادون من ساعة أنا ما هلا هلا تنرات هلا قايل لي سالم يعني هلا قايل لي يا نما كان قالت كان نما كان له قالت كي نجي له شقينا هينا مو فون شقينا هينا اسمع أنا تو اللي نما كي نوبيات أسكت بدي أنا تيرنا مختلف نقدر نتكلم إلا ما أنت أنا ما هي ذيك الشقدين أبغى هلا كي المحزارية ميليتري كان البوليس مساري باورد هل كاسي تاعنا هذا نانو يمن منك أنا هلكا كتشلو حتى تسوي تشقدين دي ما هذا ولا ما هذه هاي يا ويدين يا ديدي هو كل كل ميليتري كم يعني هرت هذا يقول عاي ميليتري البوليس كذا أنا راي بوليس كله ما هذا.
Despite fled tempers, action is taken to call in the necessary police officers to escort disputed trucks.
محمودو وأكو مقلي ما هذه مقلي وحكوني لبا باورة كودبورة
وبوليس
وبوليس كو قرية يبغى الحرق
بوليس كده ما تشوفه ماشي
ده واحد تاني دك بوليس راعة
جود انت عشان كده
ده نخسوايا هالكلام ولا تاجي وحلا وحنا وشكون على شيء.
Ali finally dispatches the trucks for Kodbur, but he's still struggling to make the different parties work together to finish the night's work.
يوسف يا علي ودقيسة يوسف مقال listen ina fadal waan la hadalnay intii naga dhinay isaga booliska nooga keenaya intii inuu noo diyaar gareeya waa diyaar anaga kala xidhi allah wareegina arrinta la dhamaysaa marba meel bado carras.
With time pressing, Ali is clearly frustrated by the bickering of the security forces.
They don't even go the same track together. Why? The military thinks they're superior. They think the police are always with civilians and they're not man enough to fight. Attitude problem. You know, a lot of people, they don't have organizational skills. So everything is messy, right?
Yeah.
You ask them to do something, the person goes something else. They do something else. So you have to, it's like keeping the children in the kindergarten. I swear to God. They're running around. It's crazy.
The nature of Somaliland's political experiment often comes with considerable personal risk to those involved.
People were calling me today, threatening me. I don't know them. They're harassing me. You know, but I saved their number, so after this election, I'll send police to them. I'll arrest them.
Having settled the situation outside, Ali has to return to his office to continue allocating the remaining car plates.
شركة الوطنية تعتبر شيء برشة سبع أنا بس إنه قادر عايشين منه مسكين أنا أبغى مسكين بأنا.
Ali has just been told that an official has gone missing with 31 car plates meant for the media.
We have to find him. فوايد اللي قد كوبي صدق حبوا يلا سيرة إبراهيم كمان إبراهيم سكيدا يقول بحي حقول شو ولا أنا بس كنت اللي كان صوبته إيه مكان اللي تدونه واحد بقى هتسألوا إبراهيم بقى صوب بريد كرينا يمشي بس بريد كرينا نبقى كوبي صدق اللون دي غير مسؤول ولا عشان هتبقى ما كان حبتها تاني أنا شكرا
بس حفلت في مين؟
إيه قبل ما
قبل مين هالهيرينا؟
يا
مين حفلت هيرينا؟
Along with his other worries, Ali is having to contend with his staff losing focus as it gets late.
وأنا سيرة يا دوس شو كده بس باور تدرتين صح حاجة قلت تكتان يد الستاف باور تلقي تاجي
الستاف
ما عندي رأي ما عندي عسكري ما أنا عسكري ما عندي دونية دي شيء وتاني إذا كم سكتنا كوميشنير كعرّي رنجرني مش فدي أنيو سمر كيشوا سبحان الله بيرد ضد بفوتيني هو يرد ضد شيء عسكرته حينوتي مع ده ضد كلا هذا إذا كانوا حينوا هيرس هذا سوله وحتى نستاف كي ماشى سبب كده يش.
As Ali resolves one issue, another arises. It has been discovered that fake car plate permits have been made for use on polling day. Ali must act immediately to resolve the problem in time.
بليدوين تالكا لو سو سميستay baala yareero sticker la soo samaystay lagu dul dejinayo baleedadii baabuurta oo ilaa 1500 magaalada la soo galay baa nolosha booliska la garay.
By the end of the evening, it's obvious the night's problems are going to spill over into polling day. Before Ali leaves, he checks in with the regional commissioners.
mayorkiina waa isfahanteen oo khaladkii laga dhaadhiciyo sax weeyaan oo la soo hadlaya mayorka dimeesha dejinayo doorashadani hadday naga xumaato waxaynu koob ilaa tag soo shaqeynaa baba.
labaatan sano ka hor 1991kii markii dib loogu soo noqday halkan magaaladani zero bay ahayd from scratch zero bay dadka bilaabeen dhisme ma jirin guri keliya oo dhisan ma jirin waxaa aad u arkaysa xitaa dhakhtarada iyo hospitaliska iyo iskuuladu dhammaantood zero bay ahayd dhulkay yaaleen ka ugu roon baa gidaarku sii taagnaa jingada dushii gidaaradu ay duusanayeen dadka qaarkood ba waxay yidhaahdaan Hargeysa waxay ahayd in aan la dhisin Hiroshima, like Hiroshima, it was like Hiroshima.
Anarchy in the rest of Somalia has led to some rather more well-known problems that Somaliland has had to deal with.
aan ku jirna centerkii burcadbadeeda ayaanu la jaarnay marka dhibta runtii dhibta weyn bay nagu hayaan haddii umana yaraysano waxaanu ka qaban karnaa waanu ka qabanaa marka anagu iminka intaanu ku Itaaliya waxa weeyaan in aanu borderkii way noo joogaana inaanu jegarayno oo aanu ku joojino halkaasi.
With the country's security resources already stretched by international threats, there is a shortfall of security staff covering the election.
dawladdu runtii lacag badan ma haysato dakhligana soo galay oo kooban yahay laakiin waxaan ku faraxsanahay inay dadweynuhu lacag fiican ay sameeyeen profit sameeyeen iyagu heer gaareen marka waxa soo dhan ay dadku gaareen dawladda ku faanaysa way dawladdu hadayna nabadgelyada sugin hadaan dawladnimada la sugin hadaan xuduud hadaan dadka la caawin hadaan loo sahlin hadaan nidaamkii dawladnimo aan la dhisin ma suura galan waxaasi.
The day of the election is finally here, after months of preparation, campaigning and anticipation. The polling stations open at 7 a.m. to long queues in traffic-free streets. But beyond the pedestrianised buzz is an apprehension that the enthusiasm of the people could turn sour if the day is not managed correctly. The turnout is expected to be over 90%, with anyone over 16 being able to vote. In the capital, there are 175 candidates to choose from, but there can only be 25 elected officials at the end of the day's voting.
waxaan ugu codeeyay cabdicasiis aadan habane sisto mujaahidiinta insha Allah bismillaahi kariimna wuxuu noqon doonaa he will be the one. That's what I hope.
I support place 522. I like it very much because he's a sportsman. He's always helping the poor people, like the people don't have any don't have any parents. Okay. Already parents like he helps that people and I support only that.
waxa weeye maanta doorashadu aad iyo aad baan ugu faraxsannahay dadweynaha reer Hargeysa ama reer Somaliland meel waliba qof waliba aad iyo aad buu ugu faraxsan yahay wuxuu aad ugu faraxsan yahay qof waliba nidaamka ay dawladdu u samaysay nidaamka shakhsiyaddu qalbigiisa uu ka helayo iyo inuu u codeeyo si xorriyada qof waliba qofka uu doonayo waxa weeye dimuqraasigu qoladaasi way iska sheegtaan laakiin dimuqraasigu wuxuu yaallaa Soomaaliya gudaheedu yaallaa Somaliland buu yaallaa awowyada ayaa ku dhaqmi jiray weligood markay shirayaan xitaa gurigiisa markuu joogo ayaa dimuqraasigu ka jira
The election is now well underway, and voters are casting their ballots up and down the country. Back at the Electoral Commission, the elections management is still ongoing, and Ali is back at work with a number of pressing issues to deal with.
Today in the morning, you know what we did? What happened was last night they found out there were some fake blades that resemble to ours, right? So we reached an agreement with the Minister of Interior to halt all the vehicles today, except for international observers, journalists, workers of National Electoral Commission, and security and the police apparatus. However, in this morning, the Minister of Interior and his troops, they stopped even our vehicles. You know, even the what we call polling station workers, they could not reach their destination because they were stopping all the vehicles. So I went there and I disagreed with the minister and the general of the police. So I told them every vehicle is moving. So you have the power to arrest those people who put the fake plates. So thankfully we succeed, and there were few fake plates, few cars with fake plates, but the majority, 95% of the time, they were the plates that we gave to the people. So the thing has moved from that time on. So now things are moving. However, there are, Bas, come here, if it's something. There are places, especially in certain areas, where the ballot papers is finishing fast. So we don't know what's going on. 525 ballot papers in one polling station. The polling station opens at 7. By 9:30, if you tell me 525 is gone, that's ridiculous.
Ali has a new problem to cope with. Reports are coming in that are raising suspicions of attempts at vote rigging.
Yeah. I don't understand. It evaporates, I guess. Because I'm going to man will be لكن ولا مرمرنا يوم حافظنا ما يمكن أسافر وسوق اللي لا بس عاود كل شنطة بقولي سنة لا تقول الله صعد ولا كل مين. تو حاسكور.
With the shortage of ballot papers, the party leaders are demanding Ali delivers more papers to their supporters' areas. He must remain impartial by ensuring the ballot papers are distributed fairly.
Understand? أنا تايم دين وفون.
أو تراجع. أو تراجع لكن فتحنا أو كدوم. ولي يا الله يمرض. أنا بقول ورهود. 19 10 كلوري ورهود أنا قدام عليه. وفينومينا نقص. Something is not right. لكن تضبطي بانو بلونه. أما تضبطي يروح على ما بيلعبه. سجال كي يبرك سنتي بقولي سنة لا تكون أنا بعدين. Come on.
Though precautions have been taken to limit the impact of the absence of a voter register, it is apparent that multiple voting is taking place. The resulting shortage of ballot papers presents a potential crisis, as the threat of people missing out on voting could cause rioting.
لكن حافظها قاركود واحد مدة حافظ كليني لو يتوبون صدق يتوبون قوضي كلين ما كبير ساعات سحنا توبون سحنا اللي وراء قوينا مالي هو وادي هاي ويقول لي بتاعي سوما واي والمشي التبليغ كسورتي دي ما ركتي يعني نيرجيس عبد الرحمن عمر the speaker of the house بيلاندي house of parliament xisbigiisuna waa wadani halkaa tabliiqa kasoo jeeda wuri ilaa 2,000 qof malaawo joogta askarna waa loo baahan inuu geeyo rabshad baa ka dhici
Alongside the Commission's concern to keep the election to one man, one vote, Somaliland faces broader issues around its democracy. There are sections of society that feel excluded from participating in the political process.
annaga ayaa dadka ururina annaga xusbiga soo saarna annaga ugu badan orodka laakiin xusbiyadu run ahaan Somaliland dumarka ma siiyaan maskabkooda xusbiyadu muraaqibiinta waxa ay ku soo diyaarsadaan reero waxa keentay dimuqraadiyaddii waxay gashay qabiil dimuqraadiyaddii ma Somaliland ba qabiil bay gashay inankii golaha ka soo baxayay waxa la reer hebel inankeen qofkeen baa la reer hebel reer hebel markii la yiraahdo qofka keenso xisbiga hebel wala deegaanka kaaga soo baxay aniga oo gabadhay ma doonayaan nin bay keensanayaan lama oranin deegaan hebel oo inaan keen gobolka Hargeysa intaan soo inaan una ka soo baxaan aqoon laguma kala saarin deegaan ahaan gudaha lama oranin laakiin family bay noqotay family-gina wuxuu ku leeyahay inaan halkaan adiga ku geyn lahayn baan geysanaya dimuqraadiyad baanu nahay intaas oo doorashaan soo galay Somaliland dimuqraadiyadda Geeska Afrika u horeysaaba كما بيجي جيسك أفريقيا تكرر ديمقراطية الصومالية كتير لكن بدأ نبتة ترتاح وحوي أنا كنت مرحان ما كانوا ناي الديمقراطية أنت قبيل كوتش تلا نبض ورانا يابا ويرير كي بيقول إنه بتاعي نسكت شو قدو بنسكت كاري لكن ده كحسبي أهم كل حسبية دي هرس وتشري دومر كوك قيمة يعني وياهم كوسير بانو لين هاي دميل بدنا كلامو لين هاي أدوقوا على نسي لكن كم كان عسلين وحنا شعلنا لنا نوقف بديو
The call for fairness and inclusivity also comes from the smaller political parties. A central part of Ali's job is reassuring these party leaders that the process is fair.
Is it important to make sure that instead of arguing with each other, they come to you and deal with issues through official avenues? So that's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it is. We should. It's a little bit of a civility because we have to respect each other. They know there's a lot of burden on us. There's a lot of workload on us, and we know they are interested in becoming, official parties.
But Ali will never please everybody. And the head of Hacksaw is upset about the cancellation of the vote in a town where he was expecting support.
namay aqbalin oo ma yeelin sidii aan ku tabnay ay ahayd in wadanka oo dhan ay doorasho ka dhacdo saddexda meelood oo bariga shisha ayaanay doorasho ka socon imika loo soo sheegay saaka arrintaasna aad iyo aad baan ugu xumahay.
Despite Hacksaw's disappointment, the Electoral Commission claim they make their decisions for good reason.
Erigabo, we cancelled those two places, the disputed area. We did not send the ballot papers and ballot boxes. Cancelled. Also, Hudu in Las Anod, we cancelled. Puntland police or military, they were shelling since yesterday to Hudu, right? So we could not take the chance of jeopardizing people's life.
Although tensions between parties and government exist, there has been an attempt in Somaliland to install a political system based on cooperation rather than conflict.
nala dhigay mar doorashada maasha la yiraahdo Ethiopia more than 300 people bay iska dileen opposition kii laga dilay dad badan baa la xidhay markaasaan 2007 ayaan anagoo all party MPs iyo all party leaders oo wada socda ayaa wada tagnay maqanaysaa Horn of Africa soo wareegnay Ethiopia markaan u tagnaa nini opposition party-gii baan tana waa ruling party-gii oo MPyadii iyo chairman wada socda waxay ku noqotay something new iyagu isma salaaman we were together waxaan u soconay the cause of Somaliland iyo soconay.
Cooperation between the parties is often impressive. But in the context of a high-pressure election, feelings can boil over. In these instances, the Commission is tasked with calming things down, but stuck in the crossfire, Electoral Commission staff can themselves become the targets of hostility.
ninka iswaaleeydiina jabo halonsa anagu komishinka doorashooyinka qarankaan u sheeganay wixii dhacay waxay ugu wallahi ugu bilaay wax ka sargareynaya I don't give a damn odayaasha meesha haba u bixinay askari kaliya u tutoon laba askari sidii ma joogaan yalkadeedii hadaba cid u dirta shaqaaleeyna kale qof u dirta hadaa odayaasha magaalada noogu yeedha oo u sheeg war inamadiina baan booramaan kan intaasaan idin soo soconay waan soo dhaaran xumaanida la dooni mayno komishinkii baa dusha naga ilaalin naga monitor garanaya haddaanu khalad gallo way kasal garanaya idinkuna ceeb ay isu keenina annagana hana dulmiina ama hana dhibaataynin oo ku dhig.
Voiding a region's vote is a major decision to make. If the election is to be a true reflection of the public will, Ali's judgment will have to be measured and accurate.
And notifications from the east, and I cancelled during the last presidential election 47,000 votes. Because there was a party staffing, there were misappropriate actions.
The election may have disputes, but there is also enthusiasm and good feeling. Where there is so much to gain and lose, it is little wonder that Ali has his hands full. But it is clear that the people of Somaliland are proud that they've achieved so much against such odds.
waxaanu iska cabcabano aanu yaacno si fiican oo deganaansho oo nabadgelyo ay u socotaa hawsha aadna way qurux badan tahay adigana aniguna waa saas oo kale waan ku faraxsanahay raalli baan ka ahay waan dadaalayaa ilaahayna waxaan ka rajaynayaa inuu nagu guuleeyo
waxa weeyaan runtii doorashadan maanta socotaa waa mid taariikhi weeye waxa weeyaan doorashadan la kala dooranayo ururada ayaa soo kordhiyay in kharash badan aad arkaysid ololeyntii wadiga arkay markii la ololeynay sida ahayd wadiga arkayay in kasto aan cidina ictiraafsanayn haddana dadka markii la yiraahdo waxa weeyaan waa dadka iyagu way soo dhiiranayaan oo dimuqraadiyaddii bay u socdaan intaa waxa isku muujinayaan dimuqraadiyaddii barbarad baan ku nahay ma qof kastaaba safkii kuyugi qof kastaaba police noqday tan aad iyo aad u meeshan garay maanta waxay dadku police wada ahaa maxay police badan ma wada gaari karto dadkaas oo dhan haddaan dadku xilkasnimo sameeyay oo dalkiisa meelaha qaarkood oo raageen runtiina wax lagu faano weeyaan model loo noqon karta Afrika.
The polling stations begin to pack up. The closures are met by calm in some places, but anxious tension in others, where people are still looking to cast their votes. Regardless, the day's voting must end and give way to the night's counting. Despite Somaliland's lack of recognition, international observers are monitoring the election to measure how free and fair it really is.
Polling's closing down, counting is starting. Counting in some places started early because they ran out of ballot papers. It's a fairly crucial election for many people, and so I think this explains why it's been very high voting figures, lots of enthusiasm, exuberance, which has spilt over occasionally into the odd skirmish and the police kind of trying to keep order, sometimes by firing their rifles into the air. The other thing is the kind of common Somaliland practice of trying to vote a number of times, whether by scrubbing a finger off or any other kind of method. And it's kind of difficult without a voter registration process to keep that entirely in check. And then there's been some allegations about, government putting supporters to polling stations in lorries. Now all of these remain more or less unproven allegations until we actually sit down with our observers, the domestic observers, who've got a bigger team than us, and at some point we'll make an assessment on whether or not we think it's a free and fair election.
The stakes are very high this time around. The fact that there are two outcomes, not just the candidates who are elected, but the shape of the Somaliland political terrain for the next 10 years, i.e. the parties that will go forward to compete in national elections over the next decade. That's a crucial thing, and I think that point is poorly understood, both locally, by the electorate perhaps, and certainly in the international media. It's been a little bit demoralising that because things are going quite well in Somaliland, the world seems to be by definition less interested in Somaliland. The international media generally seems to prefer a bad news story that you have to throw in an element of piracy or mention the word Mogadishu or failed state or whatever to get interest in the Somali entity in the international media.
Over at the central Hargeisa polling station, counting is now well underway, watched over by the domestic observers.
The number of observers has been deployed. The polling stations, they have been look at the situation since the morning. So we set up a system of communication that we received in the morning around 15,000 messages from the observers, everywhere, or of the country, the districts that was reported, much and fraud or violence. We do not get that information. But so far we have, that it was a peaceful and it was very critical election. We have that information so far across the observers. Now the few observers has been stopped, look at the counting in Porame, some few police stations in Hargeisa. We got that information that few the domestic observers, stopped, look at the counting, and I think that they have to understand that observers must look at counting in the pilot towers.
The vote count will be the biggest challenge Somaliland faces. A small error could cause violence. Alongside the observers, the government has placed its own staff in polling stations to watch over the count.
waxaan afartii subaxnimo ayaanu halkan nimid imika ahaan waxa aan la bilownay tirintii codadka kulley waqti dheer bay qaadan doontaa awal berigii hore 3 qof ama in ka yar baa la kala saarayay oo 3 xisbi bay ahayd laakiin imika waa 7 xisbi ama waa 7 urur waxa la kala saaraya kulley waqti waxaan aaminsanahay inay waqti dheer qaadan doonto tirintan oo ay gaari doonto wixii ka dambeeya iyo wixii ka dambeeya.
The double and triple checking proves to be a slow process, but with the diligence from all involved comes the hope that there will be certainty as to the outcome of this election. It's the morning after the election, and Hargeisa is reaccustoming itself to normality. The cars are back on the road, and people have returned to their daily routines. But there are many election hopefuls and their supporters who are still anxiously anticipating the outcome of their campaigns. Inside a hotel in downtown Hargeisa, one tribe is holding a dinner to congratulate some of the tribe's candidates on their campaigns. Though many ran for opposing parties, here they're brought together as kinsmen.
wax badan baa saaran xilkii guud ee magaalada Hargeysa wada saaran xilkii Soomaaliland ee Soomaalida guud ha ka shaqeysana wada saaran kii qoyska wada saaran tala aad ka midaysato meel ku mar dadkiina la dhaqma ama shaqo jirtaan waxaan oran lahaa inteena kala aan harina ka taagnaan oo gacan siino oo yana oran meesha garano waxba jira waxba ma jiraan meesha dhibaato meesha waxay dhibaato xoog badan baa taala oo dadka calanka soo wada baahan ee qof walba waxa uu ku murmaayo ee qof walba xaqaan doonayo ayaa la idin geeyay wax laga bixi karaa af wanaagsan eeda iyo dhiga wasaar iyo soo dhabaanay ma laga bixi karaa.
Back at the National Electoral Commission, Ali takes stock.
Are you happy with the way it went? I'm happy with the outcome and everything, and it was about image. These people they're looking for recognition for 21 years, and this was the turning point. Either would have gone back we go forward. So with the help of God, we're moving forward, and we had no major casualties, considering we did not have registration cards. Before, people used to vote for the party. This time it was for individuals. The resource we had yesterday, the donors were here, they even admitted they did not pay enough, considering the amount of job we done. The security, there are a lot of issues. I mean, it's a learning process, and lessons learned, we're gonna write a report. So next time, God willingly, it will be smoother than this.
The international observers are holding a press conference to feed back their immediate findings. This press conference is not categorical in declaring a fair election, but goes a long way to legitimising the process. Outside, the head of the Domestic Observer Mission offered his view.
We have a separate mission, the international observers and domestic observers, but we had sharing the information in the previous times and now, and I think we got the information from them that mostly with that information we have also same information. We did not see any intimidation, any harassment, any theft, fraud. Only we have seen that some people expected that they make some double voting, and I think that could be one of the expectations when the voter registration has been cancelled.
On the 28th of November, 7 associations competed to become one of the 3 national parties. And 2,368 candidates contested the 350 seats on offer in Somaliland's 21 local governments. To make sure the election was a success, the National Electoral Commission sent out 1,800 members of staff, and the observation organisation sent out 677 observers to every region in the country. The results were delayed, and upon release, disputes erupted when the Electoral Commission announced winners in Hargeisa and then quickly rescinded the announcements and identified different winners after the recounts. This error damaged confidence and led to violent protests. After mediation, the results were accepted by all the parties, except Haksor, who came in 6th with 9% of the vote. Kulmia finished first, with 30% of the vote, retaining their status as a constitutional party. Uid also held on, finishing in 3rd place with 13%. A new party, Wadani, took the other constitutional party position with 20% of the vote. The remaining parties, Umudda, Race, Haksor and Dulson, all won representatives in local government, but failed to qualify for the right to compete in the presidential elections. The absence of voter registration was seen by all to be a disaster, with reported incidents of multiple voting at 158 out of 632 stations. But there were pluses. The number of young people voting shot up, and the number of women representatives increased by 400%.
maanta waxaan joognaa marxalad uu foodkii dhacay ilaa meel tartankii baa meel hoose tegey qabaa'il buu u batay waayo dadka aqoonta leh dimuqraadiyadda garanaya weli way yar yihiin haddana alxamdulilah waanu ka soo dubaaranay kan maanta weli waxaa sii socdaa ma garanaysaa marka food dhaco ciddii dacwoonaysay doodo ay tabanaysaa u jirtaa iyagana siyaab wax loo dhammayn doonaa kuwa nabadgelyo ahoo waxaa la isla mari doonaa maxkamadda
أنا مرة كستوى مرة كستوى ما يصدق كويس خوين بحيان مرة ولا واحد دتكو فوتين جنين أنا زي ترايبل لاين لكن هذا واحد ما دين issues يو مكان زي interest وفوتينيات.
Having finished their work in the election, the domestic observers now gather for a meal and to discuss the country's progress.
system keena inka labada kun iyo labada qofka joogay iyo maanta waxaan karaa macnaha in macnaha isbedel xoog leh u dhacay dhammaan labada kun iyo labadii dadku waxa ma weyfasanay faali iyo hayn maanta wadanka commitmentka lacagta la bixinayo si loo ordayo dhammaan ta kale waxa kaamay dhacaya laba group waa kala isku dhacay jira soo dadka ma yiraahdaan qabyaaladii waxa soo ruuxay
Among those who saw the process as a success was President Solano. having stood in elections during the old Somali administration, then led the conflict to create Somaliland and contested every election until his selection to the presidency in 2010, he was able to put this election's failings into perspective.
dastuurkeedu waa mid dimuqraatiga weeye doorashooyin baa dhaca doorashooyinkaasi gore way leeyihiin sida walba ka dhacdaa isqabqabsigooda iyo tartikooda doodooda way leeyihiin laakiin runtii iminka doorashada madaxweynuhu waa dee madaxweynihii labaadee la doorto saddexaadee la doorto doorashadii madaxweynuhu la doortay baarlamaanka waa la doortay marka waa waddanka hadda dimuqraatiga ah.
In formal democratic terms, Somaliland has done very well, has created institutions, but there's some way to go in terms of freedom of the press, independence of the judiciary, freedom from harassment to some extent. So I think in formal democratic processes, it's been a hell of a progress. And at the same time, we've seen more and more the incorporation of women and youth into at least contesting elections, even if they're not yet in a position probably to win a major power.
The 2012 election gave us a glimpse into Somaliland's struggle to survive. We saw the energies and desire of the people to see their country flourish. But we also saw just how difficult it is to run a democracy in a place without the resources of developed countries. Despite that, after 2 decades and 7 elections, Somaliland shows us that the undeveloped world is capable of democratic expression. Yet surviving this election does not close the book on Somaliland's story. To succeed, Somaliland's people will have to continue to strive for stronger freedoms at home while continuing to push for recognition as a nation abroad.
We're getting a bit of tolerance, we're becoming a bit civilized. We're improving.
Yeah.
We're not bad people.